Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever felt like you're on the edge of something big, yet everything around you seems to be falling apart? As if the very things you once relied on, your plans, your relationships, your opportunities, are slipping through your fingers? It's in these moments of uncertainty, frustration, and even silence that God is often working the most. Breakthroughs don't always come with flashing lights or grand announcements. More often they begin in the quiet shifts, the closed doors, the unexpected delays, and the deep stirrings within your heart. You may feel as though you are stuck, waiting for clarity, wondering if your prayers have been heard. But what if I told you that these very moments of struggle are actually signs that God is changing your story? What if the rejection you just faced wasn't rejection at all, but redirection? What if the delay you are experiencing isn't a denial, but a divine setup? What if the discomfort you're feeling is not a sign of being abandoned, but a sign of being prepared? Today, I want to share 5 undeniable signs that a breakthrough is coming in your life. Signs that God is moving, even when you cannot see it yet. Let's begin. There are moments in life when the weight of struggle feels unbearable, when every step forward meets resistance, and when prayers seem to echo unanswered. It is in these moments that many begin to doubt, wondering if they have been abandoned, if they have somehow strayed too far, or if the path they are walking is the wrong one altogether. But the truth is far different from what it appears. The intensity of the battle is not a sign of defeat. It is a signal that something greater is on the horizon. When God is preparing to shift your life, to move you into a new season, the resistance against you often increases. This is not because you are losing, but because you are nearing a breakthrough. Consider the climactic moments of any great story. The tension builds the most just before the resolution. The same pattern is found in Scripture and in the lives of those who have walked the path of faith before us. When the Israelites were on the brink of freedom, Pharaoh's grip on them tightened. When David was anointed as king, the years that followed were filled with exile and hardship. When Christ was about to fulfill his mission, the darkness pressed in more fiercely than ever before. In every instance, the moment of greatest opposition was also the moment just before the promise was fulfilled. It is easy to believe that hardship is a sign of divine displeasure, but more often than not, it is an indication that you are standing at the threshold of something significant. The enemy does not waste energy on those who pose no threat. If you find yourself facing unusual resistance, relentless obstacles, and an increase in spiritual warfare, take heart. It means you are advancing into territory that matters. You are stepping into a calling that is worth fighting for, and the opposition is merely proof of its significance. This resistance can take many forms. Sometimes it is external. People turning against you, unexpected setbacks, financial struggles, or sudden difficulties that seem to come out of nowhere. Other times it is internal, a battle against fear, self-doubt, and the temptation to give up. The mind begins to question, if this is truly God's plan, why is it so difficult? But difficulty is not evidence that you are on the right path. Often it is the very confirmation that you are on the right one. Breakthrough is preceded by pressure, just as the seed must endure the darkness of the soil before it breaks through to the light. The challenge is to persevere, to stand firm even when the storm rages, to trust that the struggle is not in vain. The enemy may try to convince you that you are alone, that your efforts are futile, but he is a liar. The battle is not meant to break you, it is meant to prepare you. Hold fast. The struggle you are facing is not the end of your story. It is the very proof that your story is about to change. There comes a point in life when the things that once captivated your heart no longer hold the same power. The ambitions that once drove you begin to feel empty. The relationships that once seemed essential begin to shift, and the desires that once fueled your daily pursuits start to fade. It is not a coincidence. It is a sign that something deeper is at work. When God is preparing you for a breakthrough, He begins by changing your heart. What once satisfied no longer does, because He is making room for something greater. This shift is not always immediate, nor is it always comfortable. At first, there may be confusion. You may find yourself questioning why the things that once brought you joy now feel burdensome. The goals you once pursued with passion may seem insignificant, and the people you once leaned on may begin to feel distant. It is tempting to resist this change, to cling to what was familiar, but God does not remove without replacing. When He stirs a longing for something more, it is because He intends to give you something better. Often, this change in desires comes with a deep dissatisfaction with the ordinary. You may find yourself restless, unable to settle for what once seemed enough. The conversations that used to interest you may now feel shallow. The pursuits that once defined your success may no longer excite you. This is because God is shifting your focus from temporary fulfillment to eternal purpose. He is drawing your attention away from the things that only bring fleeting happiness and directing your heart toward the things that carry lasting significance. This change also comes with a refining of priorities. What once consumed your time and energy may no longer feel worth the investment. Perhaps it is a career path that once seemed fulfilling but now feels empty. Perhaps it is a lifestyle that once felt comfortable but now feels limiting. God is realigning your vision to match His purpose for your life. He is redirecting your passions so that they align with His plans. At times, this shift can feel isolating. When your desires change, you may find that the people around you do not understand. They may question why you no longer enjoy the same things, why your priorities have changed, or why you seem different. But this is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that you are being set apart. God often removes distractions before He reveals the next step. There is a reason your heart is unsettled. There is a reason you feel the urge to seek more, to go deeper, to step into something greater. It is because God is calling you higher. He is preparing you for what is coming, and He is ensuring that when the breakthrough arrives, you will be ready to step into it fully. Do not resist the change. The very thing you are letting go of is making space for what you were created for. There are moments in life when the doors that once swung open with ease suddenly close without warning. Opportunities that once seemed promising vanish, relationships that felt unshakable begin to fade, and paths you confidently walked come to an abrupt halt. It is in these moments that doubt creeps in. You question whether you misheard God, whether you have taken a wrong step, or whether you are being punished. But what feels like rejection is often divine redirection. When God is preparing to change your story, He will close the doors that no longer lead to your destiny. This process is rarely easy. Human nature clings to the familiar, to the things that once felt secure. It is difficult to watch something you invested in slip away, especially when you had faith that it was part of your purpose. The job you prayed for but did not get, the relationship you fought for but still lost, the plans you made that never came to pass, these can feel like failures. But with God, no closed door is wasted. He sees what you cannot see, and in His wisdom, He removes what would hinder your future. Often these closed doors serve as protection. There are paths that seem right in the moment, but would lead to destruction if followed. What looks like a missed opportunity may actually be God saving you from unnecessary pain. The relationship that ended may have kept you from the one He intended for you. The job that fell through may have prevented you from settling for something less than what He has planned. The opportunity that seemed perfect may have distracted you from the calling you were truly meant to pursue. God is not withholding good from you. He is redirecting you towards something far greater. At times, these detours come with deep disappointment. It is natural to grieve the loss of what you expected, but do not let the disappointment turn into despair. What seems like an ending is often a beginning in disguise. When a door closes, it forces you to look in a new direction, to seek answers beyond your own understanding. This is where faith is tested. not in the moments when everything makes sense, but in the seasons when nothing does. When God closes a door, He is not asking you to force it open again. He is asking you to trust that His plan is unfolding, even if you cannot yet see it. He does not leave His people stranded. He leads them to something better. The frustration of unanswered prayers, the confusion of unexpected detours, the discomfort of waiting, all of these are signs that He is at work. You may not understand it now, but one day you will look back and see that every closed door was necessary. What you thought was a loss was actually grace. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. And what seemed like the end was only the beginning of something greater. There are seasons in life when everything familiar begins to shift. The people you once relied on seem distant. The places that once felt like home no longer bring comfort, and the things that once excited you now feel empty. It is a lonely and unsettling experience, but it is not without purpose. When God is preparing to take you to a new level, He often removes what no longer serves your future. This process is called pruning, and though it may be painful, it is necessary for growth. Pruning is not punishment, it is preparation. A gardener does not cut away branches to harm the tree, but to ensure it bears more fruit. Likewise, God removes relationships, habits, and attachments that could hinder what He is about to do in your life. Sometimes He allows certain friendships to fade because they were meant for a past season, not the one ahead. Other times He takes away opportunities that seem good, but would have kept you from something far greater. He may even allow certain comforts to disappear, so that you learn to depend on Him more deeply. This season of isolation can feel confusing. You may wonder why people who once stood by you have walked away. You may struggle to understand why things that once came easily now feel impossible. But instead of fighting to hold on to what is slipping away, trust that God is making room for something better. The pruning process is not about loss, it is about alignment. He is removing distractions, cutting away excess, and shaping you for the breakthrough that is coming. One of the greatest struggles in this season is the silence. When God prunes, He often allows you to walk through a period where His voice seems quieter than before. This is not because He has left you, but because He is teaching you to trust Him, even when you cannot see the full picture. In these moments, He is strengthening your faith, refining your character, and preparing your heart to carry the blessings He is about to release. It is in the solitude of pruning that true transformation happens. You begin to see what truly matters. You learn to release control and surrender to His timing. You start to realize that your identity is not found in what you do, who you know, or what you have, but in Him alone. The things that once defined your worth begin to lose their grip, and you discover a deeper, unshakable confidence in God's plan. If you find yourself in a season where things are being stripped away, do not despair. What feels like loss is actually a setup for greater gain. God is not taking from you, He is preparing you. He is making room for what is to come. The branches that are being cut were only meant to carry you this far. What He is planting now will bear more fruit than you ever imagined. Trust the process, because the pruning is a sign that your breakthrough is near. There are times when the weight of uncertainty becomes overwhelming. The path ahead is unclear, and every attempt to move forward seems blocked. The waiting feels endless, and doubts begin to creep in. It is in these moments that frustration takes hold, and you may wonder if God has forgotten you. But what feels like delay is often divine timing at work. When God is preparing you for a breakthrough, He does not move according to human schedules. He works in seasons, ensuring that every piece is in place before revealing the next step. Waiting is one of the hardest tests of faith. It is not passive. It requires trust, endurance, and patience. You may feel ready for the next chapter, but God sees what you cannot. He knows what still needs to be developed within you before you can carry the weight of what He has planned. He is not just preparing the blessing for you. If he were to release it too soon, it might become a burden instead of a gift. The waiting is not a sign of denial, it is a sign of careful preparation. During this season, it is easy to look around and compare your journey to others. You see people advancing, opportunities opening for them, and success coming to those who seem less qualified than you. The temptation is to question why God seems to be moving for others, but not for you. But comparison is a distraction that shifts your focus from God's plan to human timelines. Your story is unique, and your breakthrough will come at the exact moment it is meant to. What is meant for you will not pass you by. This period of waiting is also a time of refinement. God is strengthening your faith, deepening your dependence on Him, and teaching you to trust in His provision rather than your own efforts. He is developing perseverance within you, because the breakthrough you are waiting for is not just about a single moment. It is about a lasting transformation. You are being shaped into the person who can sustain the blessing when it arrives. It is important to recognize that God's silence does not mean His absence. He is working behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, moving people into place, and opening doors that you do not yet see. Just as a seed takes time to grow beneath the soil before it breaks through the soil, the work God is doing in your life is hidden for a time, but that does not mean nothing is happening. The waiting is where faith is tested, where trust is built, and where spiritual maturity is formed. If you are in a season of waiting, do not lose heart. Delay is not denial. God has not forgotten you. The promise still stands and the breakthrough is coming. When it does, it will arrive at the perfect time in a way that you could never have orchestrated on your own. Trust the process, because divine timing is always worth the wait. There comes a time when everything around you begins to change, not just externally, but deep within you. The way you think, the way you respond, the way you perceive life. Something within is shifting. You begin to notice that your perspective is no longer tied to fear or doubt, but to faith and expectation. You are no longer reacting to life's challenges with the same frustration or hopelessness, but with a quiet confidence that something greater is unfolding. This inner transformation is not random. It is a sign that God is preparing you for a breakthrough. Before anything changes in your circumstances, He first changes you. One of the first things you notice in this season is a deeper awareness of God's presence. You begin to sense His guidance in ways you did not before. The things that once worried you no longer hold the same power. The burdens that once felt unbearable now feel lighter because you have learned to surrender them to Him. It is not that life has suddenly become easy, but that your trust has deepened. You no longer try to control every outcome. Instead, you find yourself at peace, knowing that He is leading the way. This shift also brings clarity. Where there was once confusion, you begin to see direction. The distractions that once consumed your time and energy no longer interest you. You start to focus on what truly matters, and your priorities begin to align with God's purpose. The desires of your heart change, not because you force them to, but because God has been refining them. You no longer chase after things that only bring temporary fulfillment. Instead, you long for what carries eternal value. Another sign of this inner transformation is a shift in your relationships. Some connections begin to fade, not because of conflict, but because they no longer fit where you are going. You may find that conversations that once entertained you now feel empty. Certain friendships may drift, not out of bitterness, but because your spirit is moving in a new direction. At the same time, God begins to bring the right people into your life, those who align with your purpose, who encourage your faith, and who challenge you to grow. With this change also comes a newfound resilience. The things that used to shake you no longer have the same effect. You no longer fear setbacks because you recognize them as part of the process. You no longer panic when things do not go as planned because you trust that God's timing is perfect. Even in uncertainty, you remain steady because you know He is in control. This internal shift is the clearest sign that breakthrough is near. Before God changes your situation, He first changes your mindset, your heart, and your spirit. He strengthens you so that when the breakthrough comes, you are ready to walk in it fully. What you are experiencing is not just personal growth, it is divine preparation. Your story is about to change, and everything within you is already being positioned for what is coming next. When God is preparing to change your story, the signs are all around you. Your desires begin to shift, doors close that no longer serve your purpose, relationships are pruned, and you find yourself in a season of waiting. It may feel uncomfortable, even painful at times, but every step of the process is leading you toward something greater. What may seem like loss is actually divine alignment. What feels like rejection is God's protection. What appears to be delay is His perfect timing at work. And the transformation happening within you is the greatest sign that breakthrough is near.